becomes frail. And yet, the inner light or something never dimmed. The thing that impresses me about him was really his matter-of-fact courage, the way he faced his frailty and his mortality. And I had no experience with this at all. He was profound to be with him, truly.
Eisenhower's legacy lives on, and that one phrase continues to be heard throughout our political debate.
The military-industrial complex.
Military-industrial complex.
The military-industrial complex.
Those who know President Eisenhower's story believe his lessons need not just to be remembered, but more importantly, applied.
I think that his futuristic and prophetic thoughts need to be passed on. They're just as
The paperweight on Eisenhower's Oval Office desk, which read, "Gently in manner, strong indeed." That's our program. Thanks for watching.
Two unique crossovers, the roomy Mitsubishi Outlander and the adventurous Outlander Sport, both part of America's safest CUV family. Get $3,500 cash back and make no payments for 90 days or 0% APR for 84 months.
We're wired with 100 billion nerve cells, so when aggravated nerves cause pain, use New Salon Pos Lidocaine Plus.
One anesthetic numbs nerves fast, while maximum strength lidocaine
Calms them for hours.
New Salon Pos Lidocaine Plus. Also try our lidocaine patch.
It's easy to think that all money managers are pretty much the same. But while some push high commission investment products, Fisher Investments avoids them. Some advisors have hidden and layered fees. Fisher Investments never does. And while some advisors are happy to earn commissions from you, whether you do well or not, Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when you do better. Maybe that's why most of our clients come from other money managers. Fisher Investments, clearly better money management.
He's a NASCAR champion who's faced thousands of drivers. She's a world-class swimmer who stared down the best in her sport. But for both of them, the most challenging opponent was
PE blood clots in my lung. It was really scary.
A DVT in my leg.
I had to learn all I could to help protect myself.
My doctor and I chose Xarelto.
Xarelto, to help keep me protected.
Xarelto is a latest generation blood thinner that's proven to treat and reduce the risk of DVT and PE blood clots from happening again. In clinical studies, almost 98% of patients on Xarelto did not experience another DVT or PE.
Here's how Xarelto works.
Xarelto works differently. Warfarin interferes with at least 6 blood clotting factors. Xarelto is selective, targeting just one critical factor interacting with less of your body's natural blood clotting function.
do you do for work?
I worked for my father on his pineapple plantations in the Philippines.
I'm a fashion student.
I'm a stockbroker. I'm building the sets for the Titanic.
I was married. You can't do it, can you?
Can't what?
Stop lying.
Andrew Cunanan, 27 years old. He's killed 4 men.
The Assassination of Gianni Versace premieres Wednesday, January 17th on FM.
This hour, when he talks, Washington listens. Charles Krauthammer, his uniquely American story, his journey from MD to the Pulitzer Prize, how he overcame a devastating accident with a determination to lead, a life that matters. Hello, I'm Brett Baer, and I hope you'll enjoy watching this Fox News reporting special as much as we enjoyed making it. Fox viewers know where Charles Krauthammer sits on the panel, and they probably know his position on most issues. But we bet there's a lot you don't know about the all-star panelist, syndicated columnist, Harvard-trained psychiatrist, and even occasional baseball analyst. We think you should, even if the doctor has a different opinion. You were a little reticent when we started this project. What's your thought about all this?
I don't like it.
Full disclosure, I've been trying to convince Charles Krauthammer to sit for an interview for some time. Secretary Kerry on the Hill today talking about not one where he simply shares his thoughts on the news of the day.
I suspect there's going to be another twist here.
But one where he pulls back the curtain and reveals, beyond the extraordinary writer and influential thinker, the life of an intensely private man.
Look, when I say I don't like it, I'm not averse to the spotlight. I'm not going to pretend somebody who's on television every night doesn't enjoy it. But when it comes to interior life, it's not something that's very interesting to me.
More disclosure. Charles Krauthammer is a colleague and friend. But he only agreed to cooperate on a Fox News reporting profile reluctantly as part of the publicity campaign for, yes, a new book. Things That Matter is not a confessional memoir or scandalous kiss and tell. It's a collection of newspaper and magazine pieces from the Pulitzer Prize-winning columnists. Or maybe it's more than that.
Are you decoding my book?
I am decoding it right now.
Like it's entirely about me, but it's all written in hieroglyphics.
Well, it's not quite as impenetrable as hieroglyphics. Let's start with part one of your book, and it is titled Personal. And in there, the first column is really an incredibly moving piece about your brother. Marcel Krauthammer died of cancer. He was 59. Charles writes this about his older brother. Quote, "He taught me most everything I ever learned about every sport I ever played. He taught me how to throw a football, hit a backhand, grip a 9-iron, field a grounder, dock a sailboat in a tailing wind, and how we played. It was paradise." Tell me about that.
It was a paradisical childhood. My brother and I were inseparable. He was 4 years older, which is why this was a priceless gift. He always insisted I be included, so I got used to being around the big boys and taking the slings and arrows, and that's how you get toughened up. My parents were from Europe. He was American, my brother. Born in Brazil, but that's a long story. But American, and he made me an American.
That long story short. Krauthammer's mother, Thea, is from Belgium. His father, Shulam, was a real estate developer from what is now a province of Ukraine. Both Jews who'd left World War II Europe. They met in Havana, moved to Rio, and eventually New York City, where Charles was born in 1950. When he was 5, the Krauthammers moved to Montreal. But they spent summers at the family cottage in Long Beach, New York. Charles recalls spending every day with his brother on the field, on the court, or in the water.
I don't think I owned a shirt till I was 21. All the pictures, the family movies, my father is shirtless, my brother shirtless, we're outside in the sun. I read on the beach. That's where I got all my knowledge, was reading.
Of course there was reading and studying. Shulam Krauthammer, who spoke 9 languages, even carried his son's stellar second-grade report card around in his coat pocket.
His motto for us was, I want you to know everything. I want you to learn everything. You don't have to do everything, but you got to know everything. He thought that was part of life.
That life did not include a TV, says the cable news pundit.
My father wouldn't allow it. Once a week, Sunday night, we'd go to the neighbors to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. That was the one concession to television.
Inspired by uncles who were doctors, Marcel Krauthammer went to medical school. It was assumed Charles would follow. But as a 19-year-old senior at McGill, the internationally renowned Canadian university, he was bitten by a different bug: political journalism.
Well, that was a little bit of campus intrigue. The editorship of the newspaper at McGill was controlled by the student council. I'd been elected to the student council, and the paper was becoming unreadable. It was run by Marxists, Maoists. I mean, it was just, it looked like it came out of the Soviet Union. He just couldn't read it. So we engineered a coup to fire the editor. And then we sort of realized, well, what do we do now? We have to find an editor. So they looked around and they decided it's going to be me. So I said, wait, I've never worked on a paper. I said, a detail.
A poli-sci and economics major, he loved thinking and writing about all things political. He applied to medical school to please his family and got accepted to Harvard. But he got into Oxford as well to study political theory. Would Krauthammer choose a life of science or a life of letters? The brilliant graduate had enviable options, but he hadn't figured out what mattered most to him. So he split the difference. He put off Harvard, enrolled at Oxford. And while studying history's great political philosophers, he met a fellow student from Australia, Robin Trethewey. Attractive and brilliant, too, a clerk to the Chief Justice of her home state's Supreme Court. But so much would change in the 3 years between when they met and married, beginning with his sudden decision to leave England.
I had this little epiphany of sorts. I studied political theory. It was getting more and more abstract. I learned a lot, but I began to feel that I was sort of spinning out into a universe that didn't have anything to do with the real world. I called the registrar at Harvard Medical School and said, I'd like to come in the coming class. And I remember her saying, well, one guy dropped out. We got a spot. If you're here on Monday, it's yours. So I grabbed a toothbrush and I didn't pack. I got on a plane and I left. And that's how I decided to become a doctor. Now, when I woke up in Boston, the next day I thought to myself, oh my God, what have I done? But there was no going back.
Why did you choose psychiatry?
I was looking for something halfway between the reality of medicine and the elegance, if you like, of philosophy. So psychiatry was the obvious thing. That was my intention from the first day. And I was lucky because it was probably the easiest branch of medicine for me to do once I was hurt.
Hurt. That doesn't even begin to describe it. When did you realize that the accident was life-altering?
The second it happened.
After the break.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
Sandals. More quality inclusions than any other resorts on the planet. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
My weekly poker game is moving to the Cobra Lounge. You'll help run it.
Thank you, Molly.
You're making thousands in tips every week. I'm gonna stop paying you as my assistant. It doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't seem fair? I wasn't gonna wait before I put a plan in place. First buy-in, $250,000.
Let's play. Movie stars, athletes, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. We built a multi-million-dollar business using your wits.
I'm about to be charged in federal court.
Nobody's perfect.
Molly's Game, directed by Aaron Sorkin, rated R.
It's all pop culture trivia, but it gets pretty intense.
The new guy. Wow,
He looks exactly like me.
No.
Separated at birth much? We should switch name tags and no one would know who is who.
Jamie, you seriously think you look like him?
I'm pretty good with comparisons. Like how Progressive helps people save money by comparing rates, even if they're not the lowest. Whoa! Wow. I mean, the outfit helps, but pretty great. Look at us.
You won't see these folks at the post office. They have businesses to run. They have passions to pursue. How do they avoid trips to the post office? Stamps.com. mail letters, ship packages. All the services of the post office right on your computer. Get a 4-week trial plus $100 in extras, including postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/TV and never go to the post office again.
My mom has always loved volunteering at the local rescue center, but she recently had a fall, and I worry because I know she won't slow down. So I went online and found the new Lively Mobile from Great Call. It's a medical alert device, and now she takes it everywhere. Oh, it's so reassuring knowing she can get help with just the press of a button.
One touch in any unsafe or uncertain situation, you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can confirm your location, assess the situation, and get you the help you need.
There's even a free link app that connects my mom's Lively Mobile to my smartphone, so I'll be notified right away if something does happen. I'm so happy that my mom can keep doing what she loves, and she's happy too, knowing I don't have to worry.
For the holidays, get 25% off at Best Buy, Rite Aid, and Walmart Pharmacy. Plus, the first month is free.
Exclusively from Great Call.
Learn more at greatcall.com.
Welcome back to Fox News Reporting. So far, you've met the young Charles Krauthammer, Harvard Medicine, class of '75. His life seemed to be going according to plan, but then no life ever really does. The snapshot was taken in May 1972. It shows a strapping 6'1" Charles Krauthammer standing on the beach. It's the confident smile of a young man well on his way to making it. Smart, athletic, handsome, driven. The future, all his.
That was spring break in my first year of medical school. I went with a bunch of friends to Bermuda. That actually is the last picture of me taken standing. Of course, I didn't know at the time. And I was coming out of the water carrying my sandals. I saw one of my friends with a camera. And then when I got to the top of the dune, I just stood there for a picture. Thought nothing of it until I discovered it years later lying around in a box. And remembering it, of course, it was a fateful picture.
Fateful because of what would happen back at Harvard that summer. You were 22 years old. Tell me about that day.
I went out, it was the end of my first year of medical school. We're doing neurology. We're studying the spinal cord, of all things. My classmate and I decided to skip the morning session. Beautiful July day. We play tennis instead.
After their game, they head back to class for the afternoon session. But along the way, they stop at a pool on campus, set down their books, and pull off their sneakers.
We're very sweaty, it's very hot, so we go for a swim, we take a few dives, and I hit my head on the bottom of the pool.
A freak accident, says Krauthammer.
The amazing thing is there was not even a cut on my head. It just hit at precisely the angle where all the force was transmitted to one spot, and that is the cervical vertebra, which severed the spinal cord.
When did you realize that the accident was life-altering?
The second it happened.
You knew?
I knew exactly what happened. I knew why I wasn't able to move, and I knew what that meant.
At the bottom of the pool,
I wasn't getting out. I knew, yeah.
He was paralyzed, unable to move his arms or legs. His friend thought he was clowning around and hesitated before diving down to save him. Was there ever a moment that you thought this is the end?
Well, when I knew what happened and I knew I was at the bottom of the pool and I knew I wouldn't be able to swim, I was sure that was the end.
Do you think back to that day often?
Not really. It doesn't. I kind of have a distance from it. I see it like as if it happened in a film. And interestingly enough, for people who talk about the near-death experiences, there was no panic. There was no great emotion. I didn't see a light. My life did not flash before me. You sort of get to a place where you're ready, and then you're suddenly brought back to the world.
So no cosmic revelation as he was rushed to the hospital, though Krauthammer notes the irony of what he left behind.
There were 2 books on the side of the pool when they picked up my effects. One was The Anatomy of the Spinal Cord, and the other one's Man's Fate by Andre Malraux. Quite a choice. I didn't know what was coming, but it fit very well.
Coming up, Krauthammer's fate lay in the balance. What he did next astounded his professors and classmates.
I knew that would be fatal. It was not a question.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA. Every MyPillow is made with passion here in my home state of Minnesota to ensure you get the best sleep of your life.
One of the things that I really like about MyPillow is the support. It gives my neck a little hug.
I've never slept better in my life. What's better than a great night's sleep?
Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and MyPillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
I tried every pillow from expensive down pillows that just went flat to fiber-filled pillows that rebound every time you move your head. I even tried those memory foam pillows, and the curve did not match my neck, and it probably won't match yours. That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
MyPillow lasts 10 years, is machine washable and dryable, and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee.
I personally guarantee MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own or your money back.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Sleep well, America!
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
The Five's getting married and answering your Christmas questions. Plus,
wait, you got my mom a gift?
the must-see Secret Santa, all on the 5 Christmas special.
I won this 55-inch TV for less than $30 on DealDash.com.
I got this floor steamer for $1.74. What's not to love?
These aren't actors, they're real people who got real savings at DealDash.com, the fair and honest bidding site.
On Deal Dash, I got this $349 mixer for less than $25.
iPads sell for as little as $5, laptops for $10, and professional cameras for as little as $20.
I got all this great stuff for only $40.
I got all this for less than $50 on DealDash.com.
Try Deal Dash today. If you don't win, get your money back. But hurry, everything must go. Go to DealDash.com now to start bidding.
In my first 4 months on Deal Dash, I won 104 auctions.
And shipping is always free.
Visit DealDash.com and start bidding today.
A skipped class, a fateful dive, a terrible injury. And there Charles Krauthammer lay in a hospital bed, paralyzed. Nothing to do but think.
I made one promise to myself on day one. I was not going to allow it to alter my life, except in ways which are sort of having to do with gravity. I'm not going to defy gravity, and I'm not going to walk, I'm not going to water ski again, that's fine. So that you know. But on the big things in life, the direction of my life, what I was going to do, that wouldn't change at all.
Krauthammer says he never entertained the notion that one day, whether through his own effort or even some medical miracle, he'd regain full use of his own. He resigned himself to the cold reality that wherever he went in life, he'd go in a wheelchair.
Is that hard? I think the physical part was hard, getting learning to do everything again. I have a great capacity for erasing memories. So it seems very short. It was long, but it would seem very short.
His teachers and classmates certainly thought he was rushing his decision to resume his studies immediately. You never thought about taking a year off or taking a couple years off?
No. I knew that would be fatal. It was not a question.
Because you just couldn't survive?
Yeah, I mean, life would be over. It's a little early for life to be over.
So while nobody had heard of someone with Krauthammer's injury standing up to the rigors of a med school curriculum, Krauthammer convinced Harvard to let him try. Amazingly, mere weeks after his accident, he resumed classes while still in his hospital bed.
I was lying on my back, couldn't move. The professors would come in, repeat their lectures, and project slides on the ceiling. Because I had asked the medical school to let me stay with my class.
And you read by laying on your back?
One of the cardiac residents hooked up a plexiglass plate above my head that he hung from the posters of the bed, and the nurses would put a book on it face down. Now, you don't want to call them every minute and a half to turn the page, so I put 2 books up at once, so they'd only have to come half the time. But you got to remember where you were. It's a bit of a challenge. It keeps you busy. There wasn't a lot else to do.
With such force of will, Krauthammer graduated on time in 1975 and near the top of his class. Along the way, he got the girl, too, and married Robin. But as he began his 3-year residency at Massachusetts General Hospital, there were indications from the beginning that Charles and psychiatry might not be the perfect fit. Part of the residency is that you're supposed to go to this weekly group therapy session, and you didn't want to go.
There were 12 of us residents in Mass General, and there was a group therapy once a week. And I didn't go. I thought it's a pointless exercise. So I was called into the chief's office after about 7 weeks of non-appearance, and he said to me, why aren't you going to therapy? And I said, sir, I came here to give therapy, not to receive it. And he said to me, you're in denial. And I said, of course I'm in denial. Denial is the greatest of all defense mechanisms. I could be a professor of denial. I mean, I'm an expert at. Well, I was going on, and he wasn't very amused.
He gave Krauthammer an ultimatum: go to group therapy or leave the program.
So I went to the next 21 weeks of sessions or whatever it was. But I didn't really say a word. So whenever people would notice that, they'd say, why aren't you talking? And I said, because I'm in denial. I'm not a big therapy guy.
But was it because you didn't want somebody looking around your head?
Yes. I don't like to talk about myself, except with you, I guess. I'm not a touchy, I'm not a feely guy. And that's probably why I quit psychiatry. I mean, if you're not into feelings and emotions and all the backstory, then you ought to be doing something else.
So in 1978, Krauthammer took a government job in Washington at what would become the National Institute of Mental Health. It wasn't what he really wanted, but it put him in the right neighborhood.
I thought, once I'm in Washington, isn't that where they do politics? One thing will lead to another.
His folks worried about their son tossing away a doctor's livelihood, but didn't discourage him. His wife, Robin, who would leave her career in law to become a painter and sculptor, urged him to follow his dream.
She was the one who, 35 years ago, encouraged me to follow my heart, and with her wit and humor and generosity of spirit, has co-authored my life.
In a moment, Charles' co-author helps him answer a higher calling. And later, he finds himself moving left to right after the break.
I am totally blind, and Non-24 can throw my days and nights out of sync, keeping me from the things I love to do. Talk to your doctor and call 844-214-2424.
Looking for a hotel that fits your budget? TripAdvisor now searches over 200 sites to find you the hotel you want at the lowest price. Grazie, Gino. Find a price that fits. TripAdvisor.
At the end of the day, there's nothing better than a glass of wine, especially that first sip. The taste is so important, and wine just doesn't taste as good a day after it's been opened. What if you didn't actually have to open the bottle at all? With my Coravin, I never need to pull the cork. I simply insert the needle, tip, and pour. The cork reseals to preserve the rest of the bottle for months or even years.
At home, relaxing with a glass of wine or entertaining friends. Just insert, tip, and pour. Buy Coravin at these fine retailers. What makes this simple salad the best simple salad ever? Heart-healthy California walnuts. The best simple veggie dish ever? California walnuts. The best simple dinner ever? Great tasting, heart-healthy California walnuts. So simple, so good. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
DirecTV has been rated #1 in customer satisfaction over cable for 17 years running. But some people still like cable, just like some people like pre-shaken sodas, having their seat kicked on an airplane, being rammed by a shopping cart, sitting in gum, and walking into a glass door. But for everyone else, there's DirecTV. For #1 rated customer satisfaction over cable, switch to DirecTV and for a limited time get a $100 reward card. Call 1-800-DirecTV.
I've got plenty of time to work out, said no one, ever. That's why we invented the Bowflex Max Trainer, the world's first 14-minute total body workout, combining the low-impact motion of an elliptical with the calorie-burning power of a stepper.
The Max Trainer kicked my butt. A lot of sweat. I lost 15.5 pounds in 10 weeks. It is the fastest workout I've ever done.
14 minutes is all it takes, and you'd feel that burn. I cut my body fat in half with the Max Trainer.
The Max Trainer's console guides you through 14 minutes of intervals. Short bursts of effort, followed by longer periods of rest. You'll work smarter, not harder, burning up to 2.5 times the calories of other workouts.
I worked half as long on the Max Trainer as other machines, and I got better results. It's amazing.
You feel it in your arms, your core, everywhere. Thanks to Max, I'm in the best shape of my life.
Call or go to ordermaxtrainer.com to learn about great deals like 18-month special financing and how to save over $450, including free shipping. That's ordermaxtrainer.com.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Live from America's News Headquarters, hello everybody, I'm Casey Stiegel here in New York. Well, President Trump and First Lady Melania are attending Christmas Eve Mass at this very hour. The Trumps attending services at the Episcopal Church of Bethesda by the Sea in Palm Beach, Florida. It's the same church where they got married back in 2005 and is also near the family's Mar-a-Lago estate, where they will be staying through the holidays. The president of Guatemala now saying the country will also move its embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. This comes after President Trump's decision to do the same and recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The move prompting backlash from nations around the world, including days of riots in the West Bank. Guatemala was also one of 9 nations to vote with the U.S. when the UN voted in favor of a resolution denouncing the decision. I'm Casey Stiegel. More news in a bit.
Charles Krauthammer once wrote a column about the most important person of the 20th century. Time magazine had chosen Einstein, the great scientist. Charles disagreed. He picked Churchill, the indispensable statesman who led the fight against Hitler and sounded the alarm over communism. Politics trumping science. That might explain why Krauthammer traded a big-time medical career for a one-way ticket to Washington. And why, once here, his eyes locked onto a help wanted ad in the political opinion magazine, The New Republic.
I showed it to my wife and she said, "Why don't you apply?" I said, "Well, how can I apply? I've never written anything, don't know anybody." She said, "You write it, I'll hand deliver it."
I was intrigued, so I called them.
Michael Kinsley was looking for a managing editor for the left-leaning magazine. Was there something in his application, something during that phone call that made you want to bring him down?
It was mainly the fact that he was a psychiatrist because he had no writing samples.
Well, what did you see in him, though?
You know, I just enjoyed talking to him so much. I had this feeling he must be able to write this down.
Krauthammer gave it a shot. As the saying goes, he wrote about what he knew. His first article, The Expanding Shrink, protested how psychoanalysis was creeping into political discourse. For example, President Carter's famous malaise speech that blamed the horrible economy on Americans' crisis of confidence.
They liked it, that they published it, and I got lucky again. It was republished on the op-ed page of the Washington Post. It was the first time any article in the New Republic had been picked up by the Post.
Krauthammer wrote a few more pieces for the magazine and might have joined the staff, except he got an even more intriguing offer as a speechwriter for Vice President Walter Mondale.
That lasted 6 months. And when we got totally crushed in the general election, I got a call from the New Republic, and they said, "We think you're unemployed now. Would you like to come work for us?" I said yes right away and started. On the day Reagan was sworn in, that's the first day I started at the New Republic as a writer.
So help me God.
The new president was promising big changes, even starting the world anew. Reagan's inaugural truly signaled a great clash of ideas.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
And the New Republic was right in the midst of it.
Well, it was overwhelmingly liberal. The writers were the best of that era. I was still a Democrat at the time, a traditional liberal Democrat, a great society liberal, but I was pretty hardline on the Soviets. It's hard for people to believe now, but the Democratic Party had a very powerful wing that was very anti-Soviet.
But those Democrats were a dying breed, and Krauthammer found himself agreeing more with President Reagan than with his liberal readers.
I ended up supporting just about every element of the Reagan foreign policy, and boy, did we get reaction from our liberal readership. I wrote one editorial excoriating the nuclear freeze that caused the largest number of cancel subscriptions in the history of the magazine, which I was very proud of.
What was his writing like?
It's always been extremely step-by-step logical. If you can read a column by Charles about something and you can still disagree with him after you're through with it, then you know you must have a pretty good argument.
Those arguments had conservative columnists like William F. Buckley wondering why Krauthammer and the New Republic were not supporting Reagan's re-election in 1984.
What Buckley was writing was, why don't you give up on the Democrats? And I was still one of those who wanted to sort of save the soul of the Democratic Party and maintain this conservative element of which the magazine really was.
Krauthammer fired off a letter to Buckley, writing, Reagan still had, quote, a lot to answer for on foreign policy, and his domestic policy was far worse. Quote, the catalog of sins we believe the president has committed is too long to recapitulate here. But Krauthammer tells me he privately wanted Reagan to beat his old boss, Walter Mondale.
But I had worked for Mondale in 1980. I liked him and had respect for him. And as a personal matter, as a kind of a matter of honor, I didn't want to vote against a man for whom I had respect and affection.
So you have a vote, Reagan or Mondale?
That's the only presidential election where I left that line blank.
Left it blank.
But if I had been the swing vote, I would have obviously have voted for Reagan.
It was a turning point in Krauthammer's transition from the political left to the political right.
And just a few months after the election, I wrote something called the Reagan Doctrine.
It was a Time magazine column, and it was provocative. For a while, Krauthammer had praised Reagan on a number of foreign policy issues. He was now crediting him with a breakthrough insight that changed the calculus of the Cold War.
I realized that what Reagan had done without a grand master plan was to challenge what at the time was called the Brezhnev Doctrine. And that was whenever we take over a country, it becomes a communist, it's ours. And all of a sudden what Reagan had done is to challenge that and to say, no, you don't get to keep what you got. We're going to challenge your possessions, wherever they are. And I thought, this is a really good idea. And I'm going to give it a name.
He invented the Reagan doctrine, not Reagan. And now everybody's got to have a doctrine.
Yeah.
Charles has made it mandatory to come up with a doctrine for every president.
But even after Reagan's 49-state landslide, Krauthammer was still not sure what to make of Reagan the man, who he met at the White House in 1986.
He invited me to lunch. I try to engage him, like on the conscious, what are you going to do? And all of a sudden, what I'm hearing from him is a story about how when he and Nancy were in the guest house of President Marcos of the Philippines, there was a giant spider on the ceiling. And the question was how to get him off without scaring Nancy. And I'm thinking, I don't get it. This is the most successful president in my lifetime. He seems to be out to lunch. What's going on?
He says it was only later that he realized what eluded him about Reagan.
He had no need ever to show how smart he was. He knew exactly what I was asking. He didn't want to talk about it. And if you thought he was a dunce, he didn't care because he knew that he wasn't.
It would also be some time before Krauthammer embraced a conservative domestic policy, taxes, welfare, small government, and other Reagan-esque sins.
It took me about a decade. I was skeptical of tax cuts. I was skeptical of smaller government at the beginning. And then by the end of the 80s, I had begun to change.
What happened?
Empirical evidence. As a doctor, I'd been trained in empirical evidence. I mean, if the treatment is killing your patients, you stop the treatment. And I began to look and to read and to think about whether the view I had of a social democratic society like they had in Europe was the right way. And I sort of, I moved gradually to the idea of a more limited society, smaller government.
By that time, Krauthammer's world was really falling into place. In 1985, his son, Daniel, was born. 2 years later, Krauthammer won the biggest honor in print journalism, the Pulitzer Prize. Not bad for someone who started in the business less than a decade earlier, without even a writing sample. He went straight from the ceremony to see his father, who'd once worried about his son's jump from medicine to journalism. Shulem Krauthammer was 84 and gravely ill.
I went to the hospital where he was, and I said, Dad, I have something I want to give you. And I gave him the medal. And he beamed, and he showed it to all the nurses.
It turned out to be Krauthammer's final visit with his dad.
So the last time I saw him was a time when this whole circle was closed, and he could feel that the choice had been redeemed in some way. It was a very comforting thing to remember about the last time you see your parent.
Krauthammer called the 1990s a holiday from history. The Cold War was won. The era of big government declared over. And 9/11 brought a new urgency to his commentary.
People understand there is a nexus between these weapons, these states, and the terrorists, and we have to attack them where they are.
Krauthammer began appearing on Special Report's All-Star panel and was soon an audience favorite.
You've been a fixture on Special Report for a long time, and even still, a lot of people don't know that you're in a wheelchair. They don't know the extent of your paralysis.
I am sitting behind a table. And it is true. I'd say half the people I meet are absolutely surprised to see me in a wheelchair. And one of the more amusing of those incidents happened about 8, 9 years ago. And I remember I was sitting in Madison Square Garden.
Block her nomination to the Supreme Court, a comment on the panel apparently gave President Bush a way out.
I remember thinking, how do they get out of this? And it came to me while on the set of Special Report.
I think what the administration ought to do is to say, look.
His face-saving solution basically went like this. Because Meyer's legal writings were covered by executive privilege, the Senate couldn't vet her, so she had to withdraw.
And 3 days later, that's what they did.
Are you surprised by the amount of influence that you have with your column, with Special Report, that you hear or see things that happen as a result of a column or a statement? Do you ever think about it?
No, I think about it, and I find it worrisome. The reason is that when I was told
Welcome back to Fox News Reporting. Charles Krauthammer set out to write a book about the things that matter most. And he didn't mean politics. The Palm on 19th Street, one of Washington's legendary power scenes. And you know you're lunching with one of DC's power players if his caricature's on the wall.
I got one other scenario for you.
And today, Charles Krauthammer is holding forth on the nuances of power.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this. I know where this is going.
Not the political power of the White House 10 blocks away. He's talking about the Washington Nationals and whether they can power a late season playoff run.
The Nats finished 14-2. One game ahead of Cincinnati.
Right.
And Worth is the MVP.
I was wondering where he was going. Harper, Desmond, but Worth.
I think Charles and I are both people who write about politics to support our baseball habits.
Noted conservative columnist and newly minted Fox News contributor George Will has written 2 books on baseball. Do you remember when you first met Charles?
I think it was 1982 because he was then with the New Republic and wrote a cover story on me. So I said, interesting guy, bring him to lunch, and that's how we met.
So how long did it take before you were friends?
I think it was instantaneous. 5 years later, I bought a new house, and the first thing I did was build a wheelchair ramp in the garage so Charles could get in.
He told us that when you get together, you first talk baseball, and then when you've dealt with all the important issues, you go to politics.
If there's time left over, yes.
Tim Kirchin, a senior writer for ESPN magazine, has lunch with Will and Krauthammer a couple of times a year to talk baseball.
To say they're fans is an understatement. To say they love the game is an understatement.
I grew up playing the game. I loved to play the game, and as a kid, my brother and I would go around on our Schwinns on the streets of Long Island with transistor radios hanging from the handlebars, listening to Mel Allen and Phil Rizzuto doing the Yankee games. This was our lives.
Since the Nationals came to Washington in 2005, they've had no bigger fan than Charles Krauthammer.
When I started to do your show every night, you know, it ends at 7, the game starts at 7:10. The garage at Fox is 7 minutes if the wind is fair in the 3rd Street Tunnel from the garage at Nat Stadium. So I get there in the bottom of the 1st. I mean, how can I resist?
He makes that trip in a special vehicle designed just for him that lets Krauthammer accelerate and brake with his left hand and steer with his right.
Everybody who comes in here the first time is terrified. And I don't blame them. In fact, when I went for my driving test, the tester didn't want to get in. I told him he had to. It's the law. I think he passed me because he survived. He was so happy to be alive when it was over.
The first time I saw you go into the parking lot, you know, I waved to you. And then the next day you said to me, you really shouldn't wave. It's a little dangerous.
Yeah, the wave is a little bit hard. When somebody lets me in traffic,
plumbing,
I'm tempted
lumber,
to take one hand.
whatever you need to get the job done right.
Pros can save an additional 5% every day when they use their Lowe's Business Credit Card.
It took us 8 minutes to get to the stadium. When we took our seats, the Nats were beating the Braves 1-0. Krauthammer went into analyst mode right away, as though he was breaking down a procedural move Harry Reid might use to thwart a Ted Cruz filibuster.
On a 1-0 count, you want to steal on a breaking ball because it's slower. And is he likely to throw a breaking ball? No. So he's unlikely to try to steal right now. Strike one. Now he might go for a breaking ball.
Turns out 9 innings with Charles Krauthammer is not just a day at the park. It's essentially grad school for baseball.
Okay.
At Lowe's, pros can save an extra 5% every day with their Lowe's Business Credit Card on things like tools, paint, plumbing, lumber, whatever you need to get the job done.
Get through, come on. No.
He's a catcher.
Done right.
Pros can save an additional 5% every
writes about
day
baseball,
when they use their Lowe's Business credit
in a way
card.
that transcends the sport. Take his column about Rick Ankiel, a 21-year-old pitching phenom who back in 2000 fell apart when he was picked to start a playoff game. With a huge national TV audience watching, he suddenly couldn't throw a strike. He never
At Lowe's,
pitched
pros
the
can save an
same
extra
again.
5% every day
But
with their
instead of
Lowe's Business
quitting,
credit card
Ankiel
on things like
went back
tools,
down to the
paint,
minors,
plumbing,
learned a new
lumber,
position,
and whatever you
and
need to get the
returned
job
to the
done right.
majors as a
Pros
hitter.
can save an additional
The column
5%
is
every day when they
reprinted
use their
Krauthammer's
Lowe's
book,
Business credit
Things
card.
That Matter. It's in the personal section, just a few pages after the piece about his brother, Marcel. I was thinking about this column. This is not really about you, but then your last line, the catastrophe that awaits everyone from a single false move, wrong turn, fatal encounter. Every life has such a moment. What distinguishes us is whether and how we ever come back.
That's why the Rick Ankiel story resonated so much with me. I mean, I had my fatal encounter, as did Rick Ankiel. There's an element of that in everybody's story, their low point. Do you want it enough, and are you lucky enough? That's a part of it, too.
While
There's a lot of
Krauthammer's
BS
injury
about
has kept him
HS.
off the playing fields and courts, he's
Hidradenitis
pursued
suppurativa.
another competitive
Like being
outlet.
secretive.
Chess.
There was
Which lights
maybe
you up
close to
more?
a year where I told
Baseball
nobody.
or
Wouldn't normally come out and
chess
talk
when
to
you're
it like
in the
I am
game?
now, so freely.
There's
My
no
parents
comparison.
didn't even know.
Opening
chess.
up about
Do you
HS
still play
isn't
chess?
easy, but it
No,
helps.
I gave it up.
I have an amazing support group. I know
It's an
I
addiction.
wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't
It's
for
a
my
poison.
mother and my friends.
I mean,
My wife
it's,
helps
you know,
with
you
the
reach a
emotional
point when you're
support.
on the
My
internet,
family is my rock.
you know,
Want
middle
to-
of the night, and you're playing.
Ultimately bow to politics.
I have a column in the book where I write about the Fermi paradox. Fermi was a great physicist who posed a simple question. We know that there are millions of habitable worlds out there. So there have to be thousands, millions of civilizations. Why have we never heard from any of them? The most plausible explanation is that every time a civilization achieves consciousness and the kind of science that would allow you to transmit a signal, they destroy themselves. And the question is, can we regulate our politics in a way that will allow the human species to flourish and produce all the beautiful stuff? And that's a question that only can be answered by politics.
Coming up, battering the president and ticking off the Tea Party. Have you seen this mail?
My assistant reads most of my mail, and he's now in therapy.
Fox News reporting continues after the break.
Introducing the Work Switch Driver. With 2 rotating chucks, you can switch between bits in a second and get projects done twice as fast. Switch from drilling to driving and more. Power through your projects faster and easier with a Work Switch Driver. Get yours today.
When it comes to travel, I sweat the details. Late checkout, down alternative pillows, and of course, price. TripAdvisor helps you book a hotel without breaking a sweat. Because we now instantly search over 200 booking sites to find you the lowest price on the hotel you want. Don't sweat your booking. TripAdvisor, the latest reviews, the lowest prices.
So I think I got to get my roof repaired. You know anybody?
Yeah, actually I might.
Yeah, great. Can you do a free background check on them, get me some additional quotes, and book it for 2 weeks from now?
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So to find and book a top-rated home pro for free, just ask HomeAdvisor.
'Tis the season to shop. So how do consumers spend this year? Plus, New Year's Eve security, the critical plans to keep us safe on a must-see Your World special.
Maybe we should try moving the router.
Slide it on your wireless router and you're good to go.
For this next one, I want to...
This is Eero.
Let's do this.
Sweet.
It's not a router, it's a Wi-Fi system. Eeros create a wireless mesh network that blankets every room in fast, reliable Wi-Fi.
Already in your inbox.
Now through Christmas Eve, get $50 off select Eero systems.
I was on heroin.
I used crack cocaine.
We are the Addiction Network. And if you have a problem with drugs or alcohol, you need to call the number on your screen now. Addiction is a disease, and you can't go it alone. The call is free, and so is the consultation. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost. So call the Addiction Network now.
Call 800-513-2143.
Look, isn't that Frank Thomas?
Oh, the big hurt.
More like the big hunk.
Yeah.
Wow, Frank Thomas.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You look like you could still be playing. That's what I said.
Well, I am feeling stronger and leaner. So, Frank, what's your secret? I discovered Nugenics.
I wish my husband did.
It's easy. Just send a text.
If you're a guy over 40, text PROVE to 42424 for our private VIP pass to our best offer on award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Nugenics is a unique man-boosting formula powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone level, to help you feel stronger, leaner, with more energy and drive, more passion too.
Here, try a bottle. And trust me, she'll like it too.
Text PROVE to 42424 for our private VIP pass to our best offer. This offer is not available in stores. Text PROVE to 42424.
It was January 2009, 30 years after Charles Krauthammer began his journalism career here in Washington. A new president was about to be sworn in, but Krauthammer wasn't sure what to make of Barack Obama. He got the chance to size him up at a small dinner party hosted by his friend George Will. It was a week before Inauguration Day.
I remember before the president-elect arrived saying, you know, I haven't been able to figure this guy out. Is he a centrist who will occasionally throw a bone to the left, or is he a lefty who will occasionally throw a bone to the right? Nobody had any ideas.
Well, that was part of Mr. Obama's great strength. He was a national Rorschach test.
So we spent 3 hours with this new man. He leaves, and we're staying behind a little bit, and I say, same question. Is he a centrist? Is he a lefty? Nobody knew.
You think you've figured him out?
I figured him out after that first State of the Union speech.
We will invest $15 billion a year to develop technologies like wind power and solar power. We can no longer afford to put health care reform on hold. It will be the goal of this administration to ensure.
I was so astonished that I wrote 5 columns in a row on what kind of unusual political animal he was in giving an agenda as radical as any since FDR. He basically said, I'm not here to tinker. I've come here to transform America.
You've been pretty tough on this administration, this president.
Well, I think he's done just about everything wrong.
But just as he was willing to offend his fellow liberals back in the 80s, he is equally willing to take on conservatives he believes are wrong. Have you seen this mail? From some of the things you've said about Ted Cruz? I mean, I get the emails.
Oh, I know you get the emails. I've seen the tweets. My assistant reads most of my mail, and he's now in therapy. Just kidding.
The Krauthammer on Fox did not appreciate what Cruz did.
If he listened to talk radio, it might really send his assistant over the edge.
Dr. Charles Krauthammer, in the 1980s, he was working for Walter Mondale.
It's my job to call a folly a folly. If you're going to leave the medical profession because you think you have something to say, you're betraying your whole life if you don't say what you think, and you don't say it honestly and bluntly.
Do you think you'll ever stop writing?
No, I intend to die at my desk.
Really?
I would like to. I'm not sure I can arrange it.
My bladder leakage was making me feel like I couldn't spend time with my grandson. Now, Depend FitFlex has their fastest absorbent material inside, so it keeps me dry and protected. Go to depend.com, get a coupon, and try them for yourself.
Diamonds at their lowest price in years. Half-carat solitaires are now $3.90.
My bladder leakage was making me feel like I couldn't spend time with my grandson. Now, Depend FitFlex has their fastest absorbent material inside, so it keeps me dry and protected. Go to depend.com, get a coupon, and try them for yourself.
Diamonds at their lowest price in years. Half-carat solitaires are now $3.99, 1 carat $7.90, 2 carat $9.50 per carat, plus 1 carat studs $3.99. Insane prices on thousands of GIA diamonds and designer rings. Buy direct, the Jewelry Exchange.
This is our workshop. These are our lights. Performance is our tradition. And this is the TLX. Take advantage of some of the best offers of the year at the Acura Seasonal Performance event.
Sets can do what I did.
Your game is moving to the Cobra Lounge. You'll help run it.
I was in a room with movie stars. I wasn't gonna wait before I put a plan in place.
Behind the heroes, who brought us delicious gyros. Actually, the Euro hero owns Vero's Heroes, so he should have been with those first heroes. That's better. So to recap, small business owners are heroes, and our heroes help heroes be heroes when they're not eating gyros delivered by... you know what I mean.
I just finished months of chemo, but I don't want to talk about months. I want to talk about years. Treatments have gotten better, so I'm hoping for good years ahead. That's thanks to research funded by the American Cancer Society. The same folks giving me free rides to treatments, insurance advice, and a place to stay during chemo. I need that stuff like you don't know. And now that you do...
Hi, I'm the one clocking in when you're clocking out, sensing and automatically adjusting to your every move. Does your bed do that? I'm the new Sleep Number 360 smart bed. Let's meet at a Sleep Number store.
Life happens everywhere, like it never even happened. Only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
Welcome to Andrew Jackson, Hero Under Fire. I'm Brian Kilmeade. You know, Andrew Jackson was one of America's most consequential leaders. Over the next hour, we're going to examine the remarkable life of our 7th president and find out why one of the most revered presidents in his day could be so controversial in our day. His legacy is now under attack in many circles, and as calls mount to take down many iconic Jackson monuments, we're going to hear from both sides of that argument. I've been researching Jackson for my new book, Andrew Jackson and the Miracle of New Orleans, and I'll show you just how important that battle was in shaping the America that we have today. We're going to travel to the legendary Chalmette battlefield in New Orleans, to the White House, and to Jackson's home and final resting place, the Hermitage in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. Most people would recognize Andrew Jackson from the $20 bill or iconic paintings like this one by Steve Penley, which is brilliant. But to truly understand who Andrew Jackson was, you need to understand the moment that defined him, which came at the end of America's second war of independence, so to speak, the War of 1812. So we begin perhaps with his most impressive feat, forming, melding, and motivating an army to stop the most fearsome force in the world at the time, the British infantry. The Chalmette battlefield, the premier battle in the Battle of New Orleans. What is this? This is a cannon Jackson used. What is that? That's the protection of Jackson's troops. What was over there? The British, outnumbering us 2-1. What Jackson did after that still has military historians befuddled. But I'll give it away. We won. Although the Revolutionary War officially ended in 1783, the British never truly accepted America's victory. In fact, it resulted in another war, the War of 1812. And things were not looking good at the start for the United States.
We were so weak that we couldn't, nor could any other country, challenge what they called the Leviathans of the Deep, the British Navy. 6,000 Americans became prisoners on board British ships.
Our country does not really have a standing army, as a shell of a navy, but yet we declared war because we want to stand up for ourselves and send everyone a message. And early on, the message was, we're weak.
We start off very badly. We've got just the worst generals. We got no plan.
Washington is burned to the ground.
Yes.
Our president barely escapes.
Yes. They set it ablaze, and then they come out and race back to their ships and leave.
That seems to mobilize America. People thought, wait a second. I might not have been for this war, but our country could be destroyed right now. We have to rally. In December 1814, the Treaty of Ghent is signed, officially ending the war. On paper, that is. It did nothing to stop the British troops in the battlefield.
Great Britain really thought the Louisiana Purchase was bogus, that we really didn't own the Louisiana territory, that it belonged to Spain, that Napoleon never had a right to sell it to us.
So the British headed south towards Louisiana.
The stated goal of the British in their attack plan was to confine this fledgling United States between the Mississippi River and the East Coast.
If you lose the Mississippi, America would be a prisoner in their own country, forbidden to move west.
This battle was for all of westward expansion.
The British are coming in full confidence. Some of them brought their wives.
The British were thought that they were going to be able to have a Christmas celebration in New Orleans. They'd be able to feast here, that they would be able to take over the comforts, take over the plantations.
The job of stopping them fell to the commander of the Tennessee militia, Major General Andrew Jackson.
Most everybody figures the war is lost. New Orleans is in a panic. The government wants to surrender. The British aren't even here. Well, let's just surrender.
The people of New Orleans were unbelievably tense. Why? Because the British were just miles away. They didn't know if they were going to face oppression or be able to keep the freedom that America offered them just 3 weeks prior to the war. It was up to Jackson to let them know he's got them covered.
And so he declares martial law, and he says, no, he says, I'm here, and they shall not pass except over my dead body.
The historic French Quarter, Charters in St. Louis. Why would I bring you to this intersection? Because it was right here in this building, 200 plus years ago, where Andrew Jackson met with his generals, and they sketched out a battle plan to take on the British. Was nothing short of brilliant and yielded unparalleled success.
He had no background. He had never led anything in combat, but he has this innate ability to see what's going on, see what needs to be done.
And Jackson here started doing recruitment, and his view is anybody who had a gun was welcome to serve in Andrew Jackson's army.
His mishmash of troops that comes in, part Choctaw Indians, Kentucky and Tennessee militia, 2 units from the Army, 7th and 44th, 62 United States Marines, and Beale's rifles, and 3 men of color.
He paid whites and people of color the exact same fee. Said, join our side. We don't care what your past is. I mean, we're talking about Jean Lafitte and the pirates that Jackson brings into the scene. You know, these were outlaws.
He did not want the pirates to be at all involved. He called them the hellish banditti. I'll have nothing to do with them. Until someone told him, look, they can provide you with 30,000 rounds of ammunition and the powder to go with it. Swear them in.
That was it. You're suddenly just pulling everybody in from, people are working kitchens and plantations. A little bit of everybody stood up to defend their city.
Jackson knew that one thing would be the key to victory. This was all about the Mississippi.
It channelized the British Army. So when the British Army wanted to attack Jackson's line, he had to fit his army between the Mississippi River and an impenetrable swamp about 800 yards away. New Orleans is to our north, about 7 to 9 miles. The British land below New Orleans. The British know that the waters get too shallow to bring the fleet in. They can't really come upriver. The current is just terrible. So they're going to make a landing with their army and come down and seize this undefended city.
But it's not undefended. Jackson had anticipated exactly where they would land and prepared the land for battle, digging a moat-like canal and building a mud berm.
Jackson comes in and digs in along this line, the Rodriguez Canal, where he sets his force behind it, almost 800 yards.
When we come back, how that simple man-made berm might have saved the United States as we know it today. Plus, we're going to hear from the people who want to tear down the monuments of Andrew Jackson and get a behind-the-scenes tour of his beautiful home.
Now, this is the front parlor of the mansion. And if you were coming to visit President Jackson or former President Jackson, you would have been invited to come in here and wait for him. And he would have let you wait long enough to look at the things he had in this room that would tell you he's an important man. For example, it was him winning the Battle of New Orleans that really catapulted him to national fame. This is a British bayonet that a cypress tree had grown up around from Chalmette, where the battle was fought.
Wow.
So
they were able to get that out of the tree and bring it here. So he had this?
This was his. He owned it. As a president, there were a lot of parallels to him and George Washington. He was held in the same status. So there are things around the house that have a Washington connection, like the writing crop here on the chair is made from a vine that grew on Washington's tomb.
My name is Jeff Sheldon, and I'm the founder of UgMonk. Before ShipStation, it was crazy. Like, it's great when you see, 100 orders come in, but then you realize I got 100 orders that I actually have to ship out. ShipStation streamlined that whole process. The order data, the weights of the items, everything is seamlessly put into ShipStation. So when we print the shipping label, everything's pretty much done. It's so much easier. So now we're ready, bring on the orders.
ShipStation, the #1 choice of online sellers. Go to shipstation.com/TV and get 2 months free.
I personally guarantee that my pillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. It's machine washable and dryable, comes with a 10-year warranty and my 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to mypillow.com or call now to order one of my pillows. Use the promo code and I'll give you a second My Pillow absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
An American journey inside the moments and milestones that help shape our history. Join John Scott for a trip of a lifetime in this Happening Now special this Christmas.
Good morning, Walter.
Well, aren't you the dapper dandy today?
Yeah, well, it never hurts for a man to look his best.
What's that?
That's my new Hurricane. Cute, but it has a comfortable handle, and it stands by itself. And it flexes, makes getting around so much easier.
The Hurricane is the ultimate in stability and mobility. Get yours with a worry-free 100% money-back guarantee. Go to hurricane.com and enter this code.
Walter, get out of the Stone Age.
Get out of here.
Yeah, suit yourself.
The Hurricane leaves old-fashioned canes in the dust.
See you later, pal.
With its flex design, it's got all the smooth moves you need to get where you want to go. So don't get left behind.
You mind if I join you?
Order your Hurricane at our legendary low price with a worry-free 100% money-back guarantee plus free shipping. Go to hurricane.com and enter this code. Also available at these fine retailers.
By late December 1814, nearly 15,000 British troops were outside New Orleans, with their eyes set on the city, control of that city, and the entire Mississippi River. Major General Andrew Jackson and his ragtag soldiers were heavily outnumbered, but Jackson's plan to create a barrier out of mud and river would prove extremely effective. This berm, this protection, this wall was built in a matter of weeks. miles long to protect Andrew Jackson and the American troops. Over there were thousands of British troops. What they wanted was over there. That was New Orleans. What they wanted to control was over there, the Mississippi. What's at stake? The future of the country. What did Andrew Jackson do? Win.
The battlefield really was approximately 4 miles long. The width was always the same between the river and the swamp.
If you look at it from the British perspective, even with a scope, you can't see that that canal was there. So you think you're just going over an earthenwork, but when you get there, you got to go down and then up, and it was 8 feet of water. You had to like wade across it up. Well, at that point, you could just shoot them like fish in a barrel. So Jackson had created a giant booby trap for the British.
And they all man along this line. They're not going to go out and engage the British. Jackson knows that would be suicidal. And once he dug in here, no one moved him out. This is a part of the berm, or the Jackson's line.
I'm struck that even 200 years, this berm still sits here.
But remember, that would have been dug out 6 or 7 feet deep, and the spoil on top added another 6 feet. So the British coming across would have had to have negotiated this 12 to 15 foot wide canal, put ladders up, and scale this to have any chance. A really formidable task. The cannons, their barrels were cut through the mud, so just the barrels stuck out. So there was no target at all for the British to shoot at.
It's an ancient kind of warfare that took place here. I mean, we think of modern warfare, but yet it's trench warfare.
And guess what? If this berm didn't work, there was another line and another line they'd have to go through before they get to New Orleans, but they never got past this line.
That's right.
January 8th, 1815. After 3 weeks of fighting small battles, the British finally launched a massive assault on Jackson's dug-in position. As we look out here, there's a British flag in the back. That's where the British came in.
That's where they launched their attack from.
But that's a killing field.
Yes.
You had these sharpshooters taking them out like it's a video game. And in the end, over 2,000 are wounded or killed. And for America, under 50.
Yeah, 13, 20, some people say. The whole casualties for the entire 3-week campaign was close to 200. The attacking British have made ladders and fascines, as they call them, bundles of sugarcane to throw in to lessen the height and then put the ladder up to scale it.
That's a suicide mission.
Yeah, well, and it was a suicide mission. That's exactly what happened. It took too much time to go down and up, so they were bound and destined to get slaughtered.
And you don't just have riflemen here shooting at you. You've got these cannons firing grape shot and canister shot into your ranks. There were a variety of cannons. The largest were these 24-pounders. These came off of the schooner Carolina after it had been attacked. The gun crew wheeled it in. The barrel is through the berm. The group captain set the touch hole off and kaboom.
The British had to do this. They had to drag their own through the swamp.
60 miles. Ammunition was certainly a problem. So ingenuity said stuff anything down this barrel. So if you had horseshoes, if you had candlesticks, anything that was metal, nails, doorknobs, whatever they could put in here that would form a lethal flying projectile went in.
Just goes to show you, everyone in New Orleans on some way was in that fight because those doorknobs and things had to come off somebody's doors.
Exactly.
This becomes a bloodbath here. The corpses, well, now we're just looking at green grass. It was the beginning of the end of Britain and in many ways the birth of modern America.
Why would I be outside a convent when I'm trying to tell the Battle of New Orleans? Because this isn't just any convent. This is the home of the Ursuline nuns. It dates back hundreds of years. They prayed for Jackson's success. And among the people who think that these nuns brought him a miraculous victory, Major General Andrew Jackson himself.
We are standing at the Old Ursuline Convent, and it is the oldest building in the Mississippi Valley. The Ursulines arrived here in 1727 and started their mission to educate young women, as well as to care for the men and soldiers that were at the hospital.
3 weeks before the War of 1812, Louisiana becomes a state, and the war is raging, and it's going terribly. But suddenly things start to turn around, and the breaking point is the Battle of New Orleans. Why would I be standing in a convent talking about a Battle of New Orleans?
So while the men went to the battlefield, the women came to church to pray.
Andrew Jackson loved the fact that the nuns of New Orleans, Ursuline nuns, were praying for victory. It gave his troops morale. It gave them a feel, the nuns gave a feel that God is on our side.
They're all praying the night of the battle to what they call Our Lady of Prompt Succor, Our Lady of Immediate Help, the Blessed Virgin.
They're here praying all night long. At 6 o'clock in the morning, they start Mass.
They were really going at it, you know, devotional candles and prayers for Andrew Jackson. It spread throughout the heavily Catholic town of New Orleans that the Catholic Church is praying for you, the nuns are praying.
Father Duberg says Mass, and during communion, there's a runner that comes in and yells, "Victory is ours." And the entire church drops to their knees.
They prayed for the victory. It was a miraculous victory, and they attribute a lot of that to their prayers.
They sing the Te Deum, which is the song of thanksgiving for a Mass.
After the battle, Jackson went and paid homage to them, visited with them, and thanked them. And also, they were extraordinary nurses. So all of our wounded and some of the British wounded were taken care of by these nuns.
From then on, for the last over 200 years, have kept that promise to sing that Mass of thanksgiving because they believe that prayer is what won that battle.
Still to come, the battle over the many statues and monuments of Andrew Jackson that some people want to tear down. Plus, we're going to head to the White House and see why other presidents have been influenced so heavily by America's 7th president, including, by the way, our current commander-in-chief. And we're going to travel to Nashville, Tennessee for a behind-the-scenes tour of Andrew Jackson's beautiful home, the Hermitage.
We're going into the dining room of Andrew Jackson's home, and it's the largest room in the house, but it would be a very important place for the Jacksons to meet with their friends, for Jackson to meet with political colleagues in this room. The interesting thing is that Jackson didn't sit at the end of the table where you would think a president would sit. He liked to sit in the middle of the table so he could talk to people at either end of the table equally.
Having my mom around to help with my daughter means the world to me, so I got her a smartphone.
Amanda, I'm out front, honey.
It's the all-new Jitterbug Smart from Great Call. It's got one of the biggest, brightest screens, and with the built-in 5-star app, I know she can always get help.
One touch and you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can confirm your location, assess the situation, and get you the help you need.
For the holidays, get 25% off at Best Buy, Rite Aid, and Sears.
QuickBooks introduces Jeanette and her new business, I Do To Go. Jeanette was excellent at marrying people, but had trouble getting paid. Not a good time, Jeanette. Even worse. Now I'm uncomfortable. But here's the good news. Jeanette got QuickBooks. Send that invoice, Jeanette. Looks like they viewed it. And ta-da! Paid twice as fast. Ah, she's an efficient. Way to grow, Jeanette. New. Get paid twice as fast for free. Visit QuickBooks.com.
Glasses and contacts. You need them to see, but they put such a strain on your life, you miss precious moments. Due to new advances in vision improvement technology, LASIK is now affordable for almost everyone, with procedures starting as low as $299 per eye, and over 1 million procedures performed by our trusted independent surgeons. LASIK surgery is a sensible, safe, and affordable solution to improve your vision. Our simple 3-step process begins with a free evaluation, followed by an extensive preoperative exam to determine if you're a candidate for LASIK eye surgery. Depending on the results of your evaluation and eye exam, you and your surgeon will choose the LASIK option that works best for you. So call now to talk to a LASIK Vision Institute counselor and schedule your free evaluation. That's a $100 value, free. Call the LASIK Vision Institute for your free evaluation and enjoy more of your life.
Call 1-800-815-8410. 1-800-815-8410.
The pressure is mounting on ISIS, and it is time to finish him.
Everything we do or fail to do will have effects.
We're seeing enemy movement for sure. Where are we at with the strike request?
We're good. At the end of the day, what military service is all about is being a part of something that's greater than yourself.
Chain of Command. New series premieres Monday, January 15th at 9 on National Geographic.
I will not allow nobody to kill my brother twice.
What do you do for work? I worked for my father on his pineapple plantations in the Philippines. I'm a fashion student. I'm a stockbroker. I'm building the sets for the Titanic. I was married. You can't do it, can you? Can't what? Stop lying.
Andrew Cunanan, 27 years old. He's killed 4 men.
The assassination of Gianni Versace, Wednesday, January 17th on FX.
Some say e-cigarettes aren't dangerous.
But science shows nicotine can harm teens' developing brains.
No matter how they're exposed.
Let's do an experiment to find out.
Here's a teen who won't be using e-cigarettes.
Now we need one willing to risk their brain development.
Care to volunteer your kid?
At Joseph A. Bank's lowest prices of the year event, save up to 75% store-wide. Fine suits for $179, sport coats $99, dress shirts and sweaters $29. Plus, take an extra 60% off all clearance items. The lowest prices of the year event, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Live from America's News Headquarters, hello everybody, I'm Casey Stiegel. Well, North Korea calling the latest UN sanctions an act of war. The UN unanimously approved tough new sanctions against the rogue nation Friday. They come in response to the North's latest launch of a ballistic missile. One Pyongyang claims can reach any part of the U.S. mainland. The resolution was drafted by the U.S. and negotiated with the North's closest ally, China. North Korea says it is a pipe dream for the U.S. to think it would give up its nuclear weapons. Palestinian Christians are preparing to celebrate Christmas in Bethlehem, the historic birthplace of Jesus. But Sunday's festivities held against the backdrop of protest over President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Palestinian officials did scale back celebrations in protest. I'm Casey Stiegel. More news updates in a bit. Now back to Andrew Jackson.
So Andrew Jackson's interaction with the Ursuline nuns is just one of the remarkable things that happened in his life. I mean, his whole life was just full of obstacles. Think about this. He was a kid that grew up in the backwoods of the Carolinas. He ends up in a mansion like this, surrounded by 1,100 acres after being a 2-term president. Well, what did he overcome? A lot, and a lot early. Tell me about this General Jackson. He wants revenge on the British.
Yes.
Why?
First of all, he's a young boy and he gets slashed by a British officer for failure to shine his boots. He's taken prisoner. His mother bails him out, but then she eventually dies of smallpox, and his older brother loses his life. His family is wiped out in the Revolutionary War, and he never, ever forgives the British. He hates them for the rest of his life.
By 1796, Tennessee becomes a state, and he puts a lot of his ardor, instead of being resentful to the British, into a positive sense of the new state of Tennessee.
When he first bought the Hermitage in 1804, he was a rising political star here in Tennessee. He was head of the Tennessee militia. He fought a duel 2 years later that disrupted his career path. This is the best way to put it. But he had already been a U.S. congressman. He'd already been a U.S. senator. He had been on what we would consider today the Tennessee Supreme Court.
He goes on and worked in the Indian Wars, and he's able to take control over Florida. We probably wouldn't have Florida as part of the United States if it wasn't for Andrew Jackson.
He was the first military governor of Florida when Florida became a territory of the United States, when we acquired it from Spain. He was only governor for a few months and basically was sent there by President Monroe to impose American law on what had been a Spanish colony.
That's why we got Jacksonville named after him. Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson, Tennessee. You start going to the South, Andrew Jackson's considered almost like a founding father in the South.
What's his leadership philosophy? How did he do this?
He had intimidation, but I think more by example, and then he could be exceedingly funny and kind. If you were performing well, he could throw the compliments on you. So he knew, like any good general, that right mixture of control, but also fatherly caring.
Gotcha.
That he thought that the people that were really serving with him were his brothers in arms.
The portraits on the walls, these are officers that served under Jackson who were very loyal to him. And if you were loyal to Jackson, you were in good condition.
We can't overestimate what a phenomena he became overnight. It gave our new republic a sustainable hero, one that wasn't part of the Revolutionary War per se, but a new generation coming forward. And we call the War of 1812 the Second American Revolution, and the one pure hero of that was Andrew Jackson.
When Andrew Jackson passed away at the age of 78, buried right here, this is his tomb, it put closure on a remarkable life, a life that wasn't without controversy. Two things stand out most of all. The fact that this plantation was powered by slave labor, as many as 150 at one time. A slave he was closest to, buried right by the general, his name Alfred Jackson, passed away at the age of 98. There was also the year 1830 of his presidency, May of that year, when he signed the Indian Removal Act, pushing 5 Indian tribes westward, in some cases all the way to Oklahoma.
Andrew Jackson used to be ranked usually around number 7 on the presidents and polls of scholars. He's dropped way down now. Part of it is what we call First Peoples, Native American history, because of the Trail of Tears, because of the battles with the Seminole and the Creek and the Cherokee.
The Removal Act called for the removal of the 5 tribes from the southeast United States to move to what is modern-day Oklahoma. The Trail of Tears actually happened later after Jackson's presidency. It's somewhat become the term for all Indian removal, but the Trail of Tears itself happened after Jackson's presidency as a result of another treaty that was signed while he was president. It was a horrible experience for all of the Native Americans involved, because they were held in holding pens. This is 1838. Until they were removed, and they left so late that they were caught in the winter. So people were sick, they starved. It was a horrible experience. It was Jackson, but it was also the federal government. And we don't excuse him in any way. He was part and parcel of it.
He gets very low marks on human rights. And then add to the fact that he was a slave owner.
There's nothing that would suggest he was morally troubled by the idea of slavery. It was part of the system he was raised in. It's what enabled him to be a general, to be a president, to do the other things that he did, because they were basically here running the plantation and generating the revenue.
The White House, where history is made. When we come back, how many presidents look to Andrew Jackson for inspiration, and how one president is most like Andrew Jackson? That story, when Andrew Jackson, a hero under fire, continues.
This is Jackson's library. And to me, this is the beating heart of the house. This is where he spent most of his time the last 8 years of his life.
Right.
And he was in constant communication with the other presidents that came after him and members of Congress to kind of he was pulling the strings of what was going on.
He still wanted to have influence.
He still wanted to be president, you know, even though we were 900 miles away. So this was that, if you will, a kind of a political epicenter of the country.
When it comes to travel, I sweat the details. Late checkout, down alternative pillows, and of course, price. TripAdvisor helps you book a hotel without breaking a sweat. Because we now instantly search over 200 booking sites to find you the lowest price on the hotel you want. Don't sweat your booking. TripAdvisor, the latest reviews, the lowest prices.
I had like memory foams, I had feather pillows, and I'd always wake up with neck pain. After sleeping on my pillow, I didn't wake up with the headaches, I was more aligned.
I didn't realize the connection between the pillow and sleep. When I switched to my pillow, I got a better night's sleep, and I love it.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it holds that support all night long to take the pressure off your shoulders and keep your neck aligned so you get the best night's sleep of your life.
MyPillow is machine washable and dryable and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee and an amazing 10-year warranty. Plus, every MyPillow is made in the USA.
I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
Call
call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use this promo code and Mike will give you a second MyPillow absolutely free. Don't delay. Buy one and get one free. Order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
The pressure is mounting on ISIS, and it is time to finish him.
Everything we do or fail to do will have effects.
We're seeing enemy movement for sure. Where are we at with the strike request?
We're good. At the end of the day, what military service is all about is being a part of something that's greater than yourself.
Chain of Command. New series premieres Monday, January 15th at 9 on National Geographic.
No matter where your daredevils go or what they get into, you can breathe easier because they may qualify for free or low-cost health insurance through Medicaid and CHIP. Even if you've applied before, your kids could still be eligible for doctor and dentist visits, prescriptions, and more. Get your kids covered today. Go to insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW.
Hi, I'm looking for the clown book section.
You're sort of stuck where you are, but in your dreams you can buy expensive cars and have it yours.
What's the truck space like in this thing?
Fits 50 clowns.
Wow. Is this still Bakersfield?
Baskets, all new season, premieres January 23rd on FX.
Over-the-counter pain medications can be bought without a prescription and are intended to reduce fever and temporarily relieve minor aches and pains. It may seem like there are hundreds of choices on store shelves, but there are really only two main types of over-the-counter pain medicines: acetaminophen and NSAIDs. Although both types of pain medications treat the same symptoms, they work in different ways and have different risks and benefits depending on age, health conditions, allergies, and other medicines that you or a loved one take. That's why it's important to always read and follow the drug facts label on your medicine. In addition to directions for dosage and use, the label provides important warnings and safety information. If you have any questions, ask your healthcare professional or pharmacist so that you and your family can be sure to choose and use over-the-counter pain medicines safely. A message brought to you by the Alliance for Aging Research.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House. Just over there at Lafayette Park is a statue of one Major General Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, arguably one of the most impactful. Think about what he accomplished. He balanced the budget and paid off our debt. No president has done that since. He fought off secession successfully. And keep in mind, too, we had some controversies. The Indian Removal Act, the abolitionist movement, he actually fought against it. However, so many presidents through time, in times of trouble, looked to Andrew Jackson for inspiration.
President Truman is back in Missouri to see daughter Margaret unveil the statue he presented to independence. An almost life-size bronze of his favorite historic American, Andrew Jackson.
Just to characterize Andrew Jackson, I know FDR loved him, Truman worshipped him, Teddy Roosevelt wrote a book about him, Lincoln referred to him constantly.
Right.
Why?
Because he was a leader.
FDR identified with Andrew Jackson when he took on New York special interest. Right on the other side of the statue, FDR in 1937 had his reviewing stand for the inaugural parade, and it was a replica of the Hermitage because FDR identified with Jackson.
From the time Jackson lived here, we've had 15 presidents visit the Hermitage. Theodore Roosevelt visited here and made some wonderful statements about Jackson.
Theodore Roosevelt just worshiped the heroism of Andrew Jackson. He would steal a page from Andrew Jackson in the Battle of Kettle Hill and San Juan Hill in the Spanish-American War. Ride your horse right into the enemy so all your men see your valor. Worst case scenario, you die. Jackson represented that you have to put your life on the line for country.
Abraham Lincoln, when he was elected president, he asked for Andrew Jackson's papers so he could study them and draw on them to write his inaugural address.
And that's what's on that statue, at the foot of his statue. The Union must be preserved.
Harry Truman identified with him because he felt the Boston, New York, Washington society didn't approve of him.
There's this wonderful quote of Truman's where he said he was for the little guy, the guy who had no pull, and that's what a president is supposed to do. And Truman commissioned 2 statues of Jackson, one in Independence, Missouri, and one in Kansas City. And Truman actually came here to measure Jackson's clothes to make sure that the statues were the right size. Reagan was here in 1981 to put a wreath on Jackson's tomb for his birthday that year. You know, in many ways, I see parallels between Reagan and Jackson. They were both sort of outsiders to Washington. They'd both been in politics, but Reagan came to the presidency with a very determined agenda that he got through during his 2 terms, as did Jackson.
Just think, how many presidents looked out that North Portico window at the Andrew Jackson statue for inspiration? A lot. Well, there's one in particular that's most like Andrew Jackson. He actually lives there right now. He's President Donald Trump. And the similarities between him and Jackson did not escape him as he took me and my Fox and Friends co-host on an Oval Office tour.
Why did you put that up?
Well, they say that his campaign and his whole thing was most like mine. It was interesting. That was 1828. They used to go back to Ronald Reagan. Now they're going back to Andrew Jackson. But that's the great Andrew Jackson, who actually was a great general, and he was a great president, but a controversial president.
So President Trump sees the similarities between Andrew Jackson and himself. But what about the historians?
Like Donald Trump, he used the technology of his day. Trump uses Twitter. Andrew Jackson pioneered the use of lithography, which is an artist rendering that's mass-produced. And it transformed politics because they could hand you this picture. Remember, most of America was illiterate. They hand you this color picture. This is mine. This is yours. You can take it. Who's that? That's the man running for president we're voting for. His opponent, short, bald, stout, stern looking.
Who are you talking about?
John Quincy Adams. And here's Andrew Jackson, sexy with flowing hair. And what's this? It's the Battle of New Orleans. What's that? He won the Battle of New Orleans. It was as good as TV. So everybody got their own lithograph. So Jackson, like Trump, was into the latest technology.
They're similar in some of their temperamental issues and how Jackson was volatile, could be volatile, and they were both outsiders, but they were different types of outsiders. President Trump was an outsider to politics, and Jackson was a geographic outsider. He was not one of the Virginia aristocrats or an Adams from Massachusetts. He was from the other side of the Allegheny Mountains.
Very much against the elite, Andrew Jackson, as he defined them, because life on the western frontier was different. He knew that people in Boston didn't really understand what it was like to live in western North Carolina.
Many say he was the first celebrity in American history. Big crowds followed him wherever he went, and he warred with his own cabinet, like Trump. He warred with the Senate, like Trump.
Andrew Jackson despised erroneous news stories, what we call fake news today. But even more than that, he despised any time his reputation was smeared in the public prints. He would just throw a rage. And he spent a lot of his public career seeking revenge on journalists.
Andrew Jackson loved his wife, Rachel, and when he was elected president of the United States, Rachel went to Nashville to buy a dress with all her girlfriends, and they were in these stores, and she found these old stacks of newspapers. They had hidden them from her, and his opponents called her a bigamist and an adulterer. She was a very religious, devout woman, and it broke her heart. She went back to the Hermitage. She went to bed. She died of a heart attack. She never set foot in the White House, and it broke his heart, and it made him angry. And he organized what later became the Jackson Papers. It was a chain of newspapers, and they were vicious, and they went after their political opponents.
What's fascinating, if you leaf through these, are his marginal notes, where he'd read the paper, and then he'd write comments in the margins. This is good or bad, or there's one article in particular that really took him to task, and there's a great big X through the whole article in ink.
Donald Trump brags on being a counterpuncher. Well, so was Andrew Andrew Jackson in battle, as you know very well because you write about it, and in politics, and also in duels.
Having kids makes it tough to find time to deal with home projects like unclogging a drain or painting a room. But thankfully with Home Advisor, it's easy to find a local pro that I can trust because they've been background checked. I can read reviews, compare prices, and even book an appointment online. It's kind of amazing that it's completely free to use. It means I have time for more important things, like our newest little addition.
Go to homeadvisor.com now or download the free app.
If your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't worked well enough, it may be time for a change. Ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio works at the site of inflammation in the GI tract and is clinically proven to help many patients achieve both symptom relief and remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, serious, potentially fatal brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. This condition has not been reported with Entyvio. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio. If your UC or Crohn's treatment isn't working for you, ask your gastroenterologist about Entyvio. Entyvio, relief and remission within reach.
The Five's getting merry and answering your Christmas questions. Plus,
wait, you got my mom a gift?
the must-see Secret Santa, all on the 5 Christmas special.
Get more of the hockey you want with NHL Center Ice. With up to 40 out-of-market games a week, you'll have front row seats to more goals, saves, and hits. All season long, paired with NHL Network, you won't get frozen out. Let the game live where you do. Order NHL Center Ice now. And don't miss another moment of action. Call 1-800-GET-SPORTS.
When you upgrade your Wi-Fi to Eero, all your connected devices can finally work the way you want them to. Eeros replace your router, forming a wireless mesh network that blankets your home in fast, reliable Wi-Fi. With Eero, you'll have no more dead spots, slow spots, drop-offs, or buffering. It's Wi-Fi so good, you'll never think about Wi-Fi again. Now through Christmas Eve, get $50 off select Eero systems.
Medical warning for hernia mesh patients. If you or someone you love had hernia surgery between 2010 and 2016 and experienced serious complications, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Physio mesh complications include infection, mesh migration, chronic pain, and reopening of the hernia. There are time deadlines to file, so don't wait. If you don't win, you pay nothing.
Call 800-870-4753.
Behavioral health issues are some of the largest growing challenges for children and teens. They're also some of the least talked about and least funded, so our children struggle alone. That's why Big Lots is supporting Nationwide Children's Hospital to give these issues the attention and funding they so greatly deserve. With a new pavilion, Nationwide Children's will be home to the largest behavioral health and research center on any children's hospital campus. Together, we can provide hope.
With me to discuss his new book, Written Out of History, The Forgotten Founders Who Fought Big Government. Senator, in your book, Written Out of History, you remarkably go over them. What are some of the main things with Andrew Jackson's experiencing right now? How they want to take one of these great American characters, presidents, generals,